Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek.Aloud. It's Thursday night. It's 8:30 p.m. So this is the Gaming Enforcement Agency second slot. Unfortunately, Unky is still out serving and protecting this evening, so he's not with us. But in that there third slot is Bully. How you doing tonight, mate?
I am doing very well. Just starting a couple of weeks off of work, so
holidays begin now.
Nice and relaxed. Beer in my hand, good to go.
Boy, do I have some bad news for you. We're on. All right, everybody, let me give you the rundown for the show. We have a massive one tonight. We have six games for games interrogation and deliberation. Then Bully is going to crack open a cold case. That's a game that's long since released, but he's gone hands-on recently. Followed by that, we have the most wanted game that's coming out next week or in the coming 7 days in the video game land. And then, Bully, if you've been kicking open some newsroom doors, mate, we'll kick on into a news segment. How many news rumors have you been through, mate?
We are smashing the door on 5 tonight.
Whoa, look out, jam-packed episode. Without further ado, then, let's get into games, interrogation, and deliberation. First up this evening, it's slightly out of focus, and every 30 seconds it's going to flip upside down just to avoid a copyright strike from Nintendo. But, Bully, as I understand it, you've gone hands-on with some Donkey Kong Bonanza, mate. Tell us things. How's that switch to?
I was going to keep the filter going and call it Donkey Chong or something like that, but Donkey Kong Bonanza. So released, what are we talking about, 6 weeks after the Switch 2 console release? And I'll be brutally honest, this is the game that should have been released on the release date of the console itself. We did get Mario Kart World, which was underwhelming from my point of view. Donkey Kong Bonanza is, I was a little bit dubious on it when it was sort of first announced, and that destructive world and how that'd sort of work, whether it'd throw out, the classical Nintendo style 3D platformer, but it actually works quite well. The worlds themselves, they're not quite up to the standard of what you would get out of, like Mario Odyssey was probably the last great 3D platformer that we had on the Switch. But it's not that far away. Like the actual worlds that you're in are a lot more vertical in terms of, I guess probably the easiest way to describe it is you start essentially on the top of the world or the earth, and then each level is a further dive towards the core of the earth. So that's probably the basic premise. And you've got, within each world, you've got different layers as well, so you can sort of work your way through it. The mechanic of destroying or destruction in the world actually works pretty well. And I suppose Nintendo games as a general rule are collectathons. Like your 3D platform was a collectathon. So how that would actually work in a space where you would have to, basically destroy parts of the environment or the entire world, it actually works quite well, because there's certain parts of the world you can't destroy. There are elements of the world that you can destroy, but there is actually a mechanic within the game that you can utilize to find items within the world. So you might, you'll click the button and it'll highlight an item that's hidden in the side of a mountain or behind some rocks or whatever it is, and you destroy your way through that. You find the item, and then you sort of move to the next place. But there's quite a few mechanics with it. There's you get the opening sort of world that shows you the basic of the mechanics of the destruction and how you sort of work through that, which to be honest, in terms of normally Nintendo are really good with their tutorial sort of levels, but this to me left a little bit to be desired. And I sort of was, getting towards the end of that and finishing that part and thought, is this where we're at? Is this sort of the quality of where it's at? It was okay, but not great. But getting into the second, third, and fourth world, it's really opened up. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more of the exploration that you would normally get out of a big Nintendo 3D platformer. So I've really been enjoying it. Probably put about 9 or 10 hours into it, and just it's one of those games that you can just sort of take your time and explore every nook and cranny in the world before you move on to the next one, or you can just do the basics of it and just fly through each world, and then if you want to come back to it, or you just want to finish the story. So there's multiple ways to play, but really enjoying it. And as I said at the top, it's probably, for mine, would have, and I know the Nintendo Switch 2's sold really well off the bat in terms of the console sales itself, but if this game was thrown out at launch, and we're only talking 6 weeks. And I know there's issues with industry crunch and all the rest of it, but I would have thought you probably could have timed it a bit better and had this out at the same time, and it would have been a massive draw card. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see. Speaking to other people, I haven't really seen too much negativity towards it, but whether this would have drawn them in a bit more to the console, or whether it was something that when the console came out, you had something to tide you over for a couple of weeks in terms of Mario Kart World that'd sort of get you through that initial period. It's not an overly expansive game, and then you start getting into the rest of the first party stuff there. So I'm not sure how much it's helped or hurt its sales, but certainly this was the game that I was looking forward to playing on the Switch too, and really enjoying it so far. I know you haven't indulged in the Switch 2 yet, Troy, but I'm not sure if you've seen any gameplay or whether it's piqued any interest when you do eventually pick up the console.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I'm an old school Donkey Kong fan, so absolutely. When I do end up with my hands on a Switch 2, I'll definitely be picking up this one. Have you read any articles anywhere? Have you come across any stats? Do you know if the sales of the console have increased since this game's come out at all?
I haven't seen the sales. I know I saw this. Well, in terms of sales of the console, I saw after the first couple of weeks, it was tracking as the highest selling console of all time in terms of release window, beating the PS4, PS5, etc. Even with the scarcity of their PS5 when it released, and I suppose that's a credit to Nintendo, is that they've had enough of these consoles out there that you haven't had to worry about trying to get your hands on one, having to revert to scalpers and all the rest of it. So they've done a good job, and I have to give them a credit to that, because the console release in and of itself is significantly better than what the PS5 was, albeit in different times with COVID and people, stuck inside and all the rest of it. But they've done a really good job with it. I would imagine this is only going to propel the sales. I've seen reviews for it. It's reviewing extremely well. And I think word of mouth as well, once you sort of start hearing people talking about it and realise that it's, like I said at the start, it was one of those games that when you look at it on face value and the trailers and the demos and that sort of stuff, you don't really get a decent idea of what the game is and how it plays. But when you get hands-on with it, it's certainly well up there in terms of Nintendo IP. So I think that's where it'll sell a lot more, is that those reviews coming in, the word of mouth that starts getting around that it is actually a really good game, and then the console sales will sort of jump in from there. But I in terms of actual raw numbers, no, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, nice. I guess one final question on the sales front then is, do you know if it's still available, like the Switch 2 unit itself, in stores in Australia? Could you walk in and pick one up, or is it sort of a bit light on?
No, my understanding is it's readily available. You can pretty much walk in anywhere and pick it up. I'm just having a look. There's eBay Games. I'm just having a look on their website. Home delivery is available.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly set a store on here and tell you whether you can just walk into a store and pick it up. But from what I can see is available. You can just walk into a store and pick one up. So given that the strong sales that they're getting and the fact that you can just walk into a store and get one without the scalper issues is I can only give Nintendo credit for that. And there's been a few pitfalls along the way with the brand itself in terms of the way they deal with consumers. But I think, credit where credit's due on this one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Tip of the cap to them. Good job, Nintendo. My next question for you, Billy, is, are you playing this on whatever the Nintendo Switch's 2's Pro controller is, or are you using the old Joy-Con on the side sort of deal?
No, it was funny because I didn't get the Pro controller on release, and then playing through Mario Kart and then going through some of the older games that have had Switch 2 updates on the Joy-Cons that sort of snap together with that, I don't even know what you call it, the Joy-Con holder or whatever it is. It was okay. Like the Joy-Cons are a lot better than what they are on the Switch 1, but certainly when you're playing on a PS5, it's miles apart. So I think I lasted 2 days and went out and bought the Pro controller.
Perfect. Does that have a custom paint job of some kind on it? Is it styled after a game, or is it just a sleek single color?
No, it's just a sleek black with a few grey sort of tints on it. I don't think I've actually seen any bit. It really wouldn't surprise me if down the track, you start getting different variants based on games with color schemes, etc., etc.
Yeah, beautiful. And have you gone? I think this one does support multiplayer, like online, not online, excuse me, couch co-op style. Have you tried any of the multiplayer in Donkey Kong?
No, I haven't. So it's funny because we used to every weekend the kids wanted to jump in and have like a family game day of Mario Kart or Mario Party or whatever it is with the original Switch. And I don't know, it's just that time of the year. They've got a lot of other things on. They just haven't, sort of jumped into it. But it'd be something I'd be interested to see how the multiplayer sort of works with it.
Yeah, very good. And then my final question, it looks great, sounds great. I'm keen to go hands-on at some point with it. Just the lingering question from me from a few weeks back on the trailer was, is the girl riding Donkey Kong's back here, does she turn out to be the mayor of New Donk City in Mario Odyssey? Is it the same character?
Pauline, yeah.
Hey, all right. I love it. Excellent.
Although you might have given away a bit of the story because you don't find that out until about 3 hours in. But okay.
Spoilers. Well, if I can pick it off a trailer.
But it's in the trailer, I suppose, so you can't be giving too much away.
Very good. Does she talk about her ambitions to run a city in the future at all?
No, I think she's 12 in this. So I think I'm pretty sure she's 12. Is what they said she was. So no aspirations for New Donk City, and certainly no mention of any Mario completing some sort of Odyssey.
Very good. No hint of Cappy anywhere. Very good. All right, mate. Let's kick on in then, or kickflip, should I say, to game 2 this evening. This is me playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 and 3. I've got the install for both the Xbox Series X because that's in Game Pass. But what we're looking at here and what I installed earlier in the week is the same game but on the PS5. It's just where I prefer to play games these days. The faster load times, the better looking graphics, all of it. You can't pry me away from my PS5 at this point. It's just head and shoulders above the competition. I'm loving everything about it. For me, this is just going to be a real quick one because this is, 2 and 3. As I understand, there's a couple of tracks missing from the soundtrack. 3 and 4. Thank you very much. Good pickup. I don't even know. I'm going to call it hundreds of hours into the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series back when they were originally released. Loved everything about it. Happy to say the muscle memory's still there. So as you can see, I just picked up the controller and started flipping, grinding, chaining my combos together. That muscle memory is all still there, and yeah, I still fall off plenty as well. But it's a fantastic game. If you loved it back in the day, you're gonna pick this up and love it as well. It's just a phenomenal package. It's so well done, and it just translates beautifully. They've got the adaptive triggers working. That feels nice. The rumble feels nice. They're making use of the speaker in the controller, which is another Xbox developed game now that's using that speaker. So I think they've finally got the message down to all their various development production houses. Hey guys, use the speaker. It's a pro bloody feature. So I'm a big fan of this game, have been for a long time, and this is no doubt the best version of the game they've ever released. So 2 massive thumbs up from me. Bully, any interest? Have you gone hands-on, and what was your history back in the day with the old THPS?
No, well, it's funny because I haven't gone hands-on with either this one or the 1 and 2 remake, but I do remember back in the day playing through a couple of these on the original PS1. So it must have been 1 and 2, I suppose. And then there was.
I think 1, 2, and 3 were PS3. I believe THPS 4 was the PS2 title.
Yeah, so whichever version it was. Plus, there was another one, Dave Mirror BMX. I'm not sure if you remember that one.
Yes, yeah. And there was the snowboarding. It was Sean White or someone had a snowboarding one.
Yeah,
that was
Sean White snowboarding. The only thing I remember with these games back in the day is having absolutely no idea. I think I've spoken about fighting games in the past where you're, trying to get those combos together, and it's very much the same with this. And or 1080 and SSX and all those sort of games were just me button mashing and hoping for the best. I think I don't think I ever really, even back in the day, really got a hang on any of the moves in and of themselves. And it must have, I'm just looking at this now. None of this rings a bell for me. So it must have been 1 and or 2 that I played through back in the day. But in terms of, I can see where the nostalgia part to it. And I know a lot of those Tony Hawk games back in the day were really highly rated and had a lot of love for them. But it's probably just one of those style of games that for me is I suppose best left in the past. It doesn't really interest me anymore playing through these, and would rather spend the time doing, playing other genres, I guess.
Fair enough, but just correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you would go back on hands-on and roll credits again if they re-released BMX Triple X, yeah?
Well, you just have to. It'd be criminal not to, wouldn't it? Or would it be criminal? Or would it be criminal to do it? I don't know. I don't know.
Now, it's low res, but I'm pretty sure I can see it just over your shoulder there in the background on your shelf, your original copy of BMX Triple X, can't I? Just on the shelf back there, mate.
Over there, over that way somewhere. Yeah.
In the B section. So fantastic games. I love them. Loved them all. What was the other one? The snowboarders one on the original PlayStation?
Cool Borders.
Cool Borders. Man, I love that one as well. But yeah, you know me, Bully. Save yourself some time. Don't worry about, massive walls of text that I'm never going to read. Just give me gameplay. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater just has it in spades. So huge fan of the game. Absolutely love it. And yeah, if you got the choice of playing it on Xbox or PlayStation, no doubter, pick it up on PlayStation. The best place to be playing. Let's move on, Blue. I'm going to hand it over to you, sir, for Game 3 this week. What are we looking at?
We're looking at Eric Scholm, The Stolen Dream, which came out a couple of weeks ago. I don't even know how I picked this up, to be honest. I was just, I don't know if you're the same, Troy. Occasionally when you're, in between sessions or you just, trying to work out what you want to play next and just browsing the store. And I came across this game and had a bit of a look at the trailer and the ratings on it, did a bit of research, and it was actually really highly rated. I'm just looking at the Steam rating at the moment, 9 out of 10. So it is, you can see from the screen there, it's sort of an isometric style view game, but you can manipulate the camera around that 360 degree.
I'm getting vibes of Commandos. Is it Commandos-esque?
Not in the slightest. It's got the same sort of viewpoint, but it is, at its heart, it is a stealth game. So
okay.
The basic premise of the game is it's set. I don't think it actually says that the country that it's set in, but it's a fictional city of Eric Scholm, hence the name. But it's basically set in, I guess, Scandinavian, so Northern Europe. It doesn't give you a sort of time frame, but it's very much reminiscent of early 1900s or late 1800s sort of aesthetic. And you start the game, basically you're in your room, your brother's gone off to work, he might be into a bit of shady stuff, and he ducks off. The police come knocking on the door and wanting to speak to you about what your brother's been up to. So you, thinking the worst, duck off through a little vent in the room, and so begins the journey. And you got to work your way through these different they're not open world areas as such, but there's various paths through each area, avoiding the police, avoiding a lot of the townsfolk will help you, but some of them won't. And there's basically, from what I've played in the 4 or 5 hours, there's no combat as such in it, but there is you can use sleeping darts, but they're in extremely limited quantity, and you can only use them in certain circumstances. So if you shoot the dart and the guard or the police officer turns around to see who shot the dart, you need to be hiding after you've shot it. Otherwise, they'll spot you and they'll sound the alarm. So you've got to be really sneaky with how you use that offensive combat, which again is very limited because you only get a certain amount. But in terms of it is, like I said at the start, it is at its heart, it is a stealth game.
Is it Plague Tale-esque maybe?
Probably. There's probably shades of it, but a different perspective. Like there isn't that elemental, controlling the rats type thing, but there is very much it's you against the world type scenario. You're very, very much outnumbered and outsized in terms of trying to be able to, you're never going to be able to fight anyone because you're basically just a teenage kid in essence. You're never going to be able to fight front on with these hordes of police that are sort of working around, but you can use, different tricks and tactics to work your way through, distracting the guards and setting off, different poppers or whatever it is to distract them and work your way around. There's collectibles in the game if you explore each of the, areas well enough. So there's there's all that in there. But and then there's puzzle elements that are thrown in there as well. So it'll give you an area that. I think one of the parts I'm up to or have done recently was basically you've got to get past a couple of guards that never turn and never move from their post. So they're static. That's where they are. You then have to find a room with basically a trolley cart in it and stack boxes a certain way that they won't fall off the cart when it's moving, and then send it on its way and use that cart as coverage. So there's puzzle elements to it as well. I've really enjoyed it for a game that's relatively cheap. I think it was 30 or 40 Australian. So on the cheaper end of things, but in terms of the quality of the game in and of itself, it's actually really, really well done. Graphically, it looks fantastic, even though you sort of pulled away in that isometric view. And there's really a lot going for it. I can't recommend this one highly enough for a cheaper game to look at. I think I haven't heard a lot about it. It's sort of come and gone from what I've seen. But as I said at the start, it's rating really well on Steam. And I can't do anything more than praise it. And even if at that $30 or $40 mark might be a bit high, wait a little bit, jump into it, and when you see it on sale, I reckon it's a fantastic little stealth game. If that's the sort of game that you're after, it's got a whole lot of elements to it, and graphically it looks pretty good. And something just a little bit different that came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah, nice. You briefly sort of gave us the broad strokes of the story, mate, but how does it... No, I'm not asking at all for spoilers, but does the story pull you through it as well? Is it a interesting narrative? Are you sort of compelled to keep playing from a story standpoint?
Oh, it's interesting enough. So you basically, even though you've got somewhere to live, you and your brother are in effect orphans, and it's sort of street urchins, I guess. So you're sort of relying on the help of other characters within the world to either help you or hinder you. So there's that element to it as well. And I suppose the underlying part, and I haven't got to a part where you find out what your brother's actually done and why the police are wanting him. So that little carrot at the end of pulling you along to find out why you're in so much trouble and what they're wanting to speak to you about and all that sort of stuff, it does drag you along. So that combined with the gameplay itself is the standout, but obviously the story in the back room with that little, that sort of nugget that you want to find out why you're in this position. Sort of drags you along, and it gives you little bits along the way without explaining it enough that you sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. And I'm sure you've played games in the past where you within the first hour or so, you can sort of go, oh, I can see where this story's going.
Mind's eye.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious where this one's going. So I'll just, sort of, hope that the gameplay's, good enough that it carries you through. But this one, I haven't worked out where you're going with, or what sort of trouble he's in, or whether you need to end up helping him, or whether you leave him be. So there's the story is interesting enough that it keeps you along, but as I said a couple of times, it's the gameplay that keeps you going. The stealth mechanics, if that's your style of game, highly recommend this one.
You're saying all the right things for me, mate. Bare minimum, I'm going to add it to my wish list, but I'll just open the wallet maybe after the show, and it might go straight into a purchase. Keep your eyes peeled, possibly an install coming up on the channel soon. I'll tell you what I did install today, though, Bully. It was Grounded 2. Now, this game's available in Xbox Game Pass. It's still in game preview, so let's call it a beta. The basic premise, in case viewers haven't played Grounded 1 or aren't familiar with it, it's essentially Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You can pick from one of 4, at least in the beta, pre-rendered, pre-created characters. Pick one of 4, and then you enter the world. You're sort of running through a garden, and there's little indoor, outdoor environments. You're hunting, ants and that sort of thing, but an ant's the size of a horse, essentially, in reality. But massive blades of grass, and it's just, you're running around the backyard, you're doing science experiments. It's very much a pretty version of Minecraft, in my opinion. Run around, gather some materials, take them back to a crafting station, create armor, create various tools, up your inventory, go out, take on bigger monsters, bugs, collect, sort of more rare resources, take them back. That's essentially the gameplay loop. There is a narrative in there, but the whole package is not aimed at me. It's aimed at my boys. It's an incredibly kid-friendly game. There's an arachnophobia setting, so if you are handing it off to your kids and maybe they're a bit scared of spiders, you can flick the arachnophobia mode on, and then I don't know what it changes them into, but spiders are no longer present. It'll be something a bit more kid-friendly. So the game's not really for me. I'm not a crafting sort of survival gamer. That's not my cup of tea. So it doesn't really sing to me, but I don't know if you can tell, Bully. Do you want to take a wild guess? What have I got the field of view set to in this game?
Oh, 15,020. I don't know.
120 degrees field of view. So they're at least catering to my preferred viewport.
Is that the arachnophobia setting? You've got the eyes going right the way around.
Not quite, but I like the idea. And it does let you, it's available in the menu, but then also when you kick off a new game, it says, do you want to play this in first or third person mode? So tip of the cap to them, because you don't see that too often. So, but everything about it's kid friendly. There's an opening cutscene that I think runs for about 2.5 minutes. Obviously aimed at kids. It's very kid friendly story, and the whole way it's played, it's like you're watching a kids TV show. And then everything about it's kid friendly. And certainly my boys love their Minecraft. They love their crafting survival games. So I'll just be letting the boys know that this is on the console and hand the controller off to them. So it's not going to get me back in, but just speaking generally about it as a game, everything about it's solid. The combat you can see is fluid. There's great animations left, right, and center. It's a very deep and dynamic crafting system and building and gathering system. There's, nice little challenges. The way the environment's all sort of interlocked is fantastic. They give you objectives and they've put a marker out there, but it's never like, it's not, what am I thinking of? Assassin's Creed. It's not that in your face, here's the path, follow the line. It's much more just, over there somewhere and start to explore. So I think if you've got young kids, you should absolutely install Grounded 2 and let them have a play around with it. If you don't want a pre-released game or a game preview game, Grounded 1's still available on the Xbox via Game Pass. Bully, did you play Grounded 1? Do you have any interest in Grounded 2? Oh, wait, and in case I didn't say it, the install's on the channel today, but now I think I did. Sorry, Bully.
No, that's all right. I reckon I put an hour or two into the first one, and it was, I think it might have even been in the beta pre-release on Xbox going back 2 or 3 years ago. Or
2 years ago, yeah. They
hammer
that point home about 8 times in the first 20 minutes. The previous story was 2 years ago. The previous story was 2 years ago. All right, I get
it. To me, it's one of those things, and you say it's not something that really interests you. I think it's got a lot of potential, the first one, but I'm just looking through the gameplay here of what we've got on screen, and to me, it's very much, same. It's very much a repeat of the first one. Whereas, as I said, I think there is a hell of a lot of potential with the game, but the first one that I played through never really hit where I expected it to. And then even looking at this one, you sort of look through it and just sort of go, okay, it's more of the same, and it's probably not going to hit the heights that I would, sit there and think you've got so much that you could potentially do, but it doesn't really ever hit it. So, it's one of those ones, unless something amazing changes between now and when the, full release comes, whether, I'm not sure if they said, Troy, or whether you've had a look, but whether it's...
I believe the only thing I've said is this year. So at some point in the next few months, but I don't believe there's a firm date on it.
Yeah, so whether something changes drastically between now and the full release, I'm not sure. I wouldn't expect it to, but probably not one that I'll pick up and play number 2, given that I sort of grew fairly, dreary of it after a couple of hours in number 1.
Yeah, I was just really floored by how deep all the systems are in this. Very much to your point, mate. I think I only put 1 or 2 hours into Grounded 1. I was like, interesting idea, but not quite for me. And so I'm going back, as I said, 2 years. 2 years. Did I mention it was 2 years ago? The depth of all the systems never jumped out to me in Grounded 1, but in Grounded 2, it's right in your face from the start. Hey, you've got to, you can analyze this and it'll break up into 2 components, but then those 2 components can be used in these like 8 recipes or, blueprints, whatever. And so the depth of all the systems is there. And so it didn't really jump out at me in the first one, but, going hands-on just for half an hour with this one today, every system is about 8 layers deep. It feels like they've really just built massively upon what I assume worked for them in Grounded 1. So, as I said, not for me, but if you've got kids and they like their survivals games, this looks like, this looks like it's hitting spades, and it looks like it's ready to go. I didn't come across one bug, nothing hitched. Everything about it looked like finished, spit and polished. Like, you couldn't knock this for its art style or anything. Everything just works seamlessly. It feels like it's ready to go. So I'm not sure what they're waiting on. Maybe they've only built the first couple of hours of the game. I got no idea.
Well,
But
see,
solid.
it's interesting to say that because I don't know whether this is a new sort of tactic from Microsoft in terms of my understanding is this is coming to PS5 as well. So whether they're going to do this sort of thing going forward, where they do the beta or preview version on Game Pass as a I guess quote unquote early release. And then 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, it comes to PlayStation, whether that's a way they want to look at it going forward so that it's, Game Pass still retains that, you'll get it here first value, but, eventually it'll come to PS5 and we know it'll sell a bucket load on that system. So I don't know whether that's maybe their thought process with still running with the beta, and given that you've said that it's relatively polished and you had no bugs with it, it seems like it's in a relatively finished state. So maybe that's a thought process going forward. I'm not sure.
Possibly the only other sort of logo I can throw on that fire is maybe they're using it to gauge interest. How many people install it? How long do they play it for? And maybe they can use that to derive their marketing budget for it. This game's really hot. Let's throw some more money behind the marketing. Or it's, no one's sticking around. It's not sticky at all. Let's save our money on the marketing and move on to the next title. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, multiple options. And we'll talk about Xbox later on in terms of their Game Pass, but there's certainly they're not unafraid to try different things, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of moving on to new games, let's move on to Game 5, Bully. Handing it over to you for some RoboCop action.
RoboCop. So Rogue City came out a couple of years ago, and a surprising little gem from mine. It was...
Was it last month or the month before they included it in the PlayStation Plus library?
Might have been a couple of months ago because in the lead up to this one, which released about a week ago now, I really enjoyed the original game in and of itself. It was it had a little bit of open world to it. You got to explore some of the slums of Detroit. There were side missions. You had it wasn't an expansive open world by any means, but it certainly had that to it. You could utilize, your policing skills, your detective skills. You had all that side stuff, and then the sort of main story on top of that, which, while not overly compelling, it was decent enough to keep you going along. And you had the RoboCop to go with it, which the gameplay and for me the gunplay in the game was really hefty. Like you felt relatively slow moving like RoboCop would. The gunplay was meaty when you shot the guns and all that sort of stuff. I really enjoyed the first one. So this one, Unfinished Business, is a standalone expansion. So it's not DLC. You don't need to have played the first one. It's a separate story. You can get it on disc or download it, whichever your preference is. Really disappointed, to be honest with you.
Really?
Really disappointed playing through this one. So it doesn't have that open world to explore, that city to explore. You don't get the feeling of that. The basic premises of it is that, and this is not giving away too much of the story, is that I guess the chair or the system that RoboCop goes back into at the end of every sort of level or whatever it is to recharge and rehabilitate gets stolen. And there's an idea that the particular bad guys are going to use that to make their own version of RoboCop. So you get thrown into fairly early. You get thrown into basically a tower, which is in effect slums. So there's people, 5, 6, 7, 8 people living in a very small apartment. There's, I guess the shops and the communal area. There's the rubbish areas and all the rest of it. And you sort of work your way through each level, battling through, waves and waves of the enemies. And again, the gunplay and the gameplay in and of itself is decent. It still feels pretty good. You've still got that heavy slow movement. You really feel like RoboCop. The gunplay itself is really good. Although I found in this one the default gun that RoboCop uses is just as good as any others that you pick up. You know, you pick up machine guns, the sniper rifles, and assault rifles, and all the rest of it. You might as well stick with the basic one that you get to start with because it does the job pretty well from what I've found. But the level system itself, there's no variation really in between the levels. I found it really samey going from level to level to level. The story's not overly compelling. And it's really just bland. Like, it doesn't have that experience that you got in the first one of being able to explore Detroit and see the rundown areas and have these downtrodden people that are just trying to get by that you help out. And, some of the, not so much mystery and intrigue, that's probably going a bit too far, but certainly some of the little side missions that you had of, how's this going to work out? Is this guy been, scammed or, those sort of things kept you sort of ticking along in the first one, whereas this one has none of that. It's basically just very straightforward. There's not much exploration to do. It's just, I suppose the easiest way to describe it is outside of the gunplay, it's boring. Like,
yeah, wow.
There is a couple of side missions here and there, but it's not up to the first one, which I think was a really underrated hidden gem for what you'd probably describe as an A title, the first one. Mm-hmm. And this has tried to go along the same lines. Obviously, they're using the same assets I would have to assume that. So I haven't seen the numbers, but I would have to assume that it sold fairly well. So this is why they're trying to cash in on it a little bit, but and using the same assets that they threw out with the first one. But it just doesn't work, like, in terms of keeping you involved and wanting you to keep playing through it. Once you've played the first 2 or 3 hours, I think the whole campaign goes for 10 or 15, depending on how much of the side stuff you want to do, even though there's not a lot. But after the first 2 or 3 hours, there's not really a lot to keep me going or intrigued in terms of the game. It's bland and almost boring.
Wow, I'm glad to hear all that, mate, because I hadn't really been keeping an eye on this one at all. I enjoyed the first game. I never even finished the first game, but what I played was fun. But today, capturing this trailer here for the thing, I thought, I'm going to part with my money with this. This looks amazing. The way the trailer talked it up, I was all on board. So I'm so glad my wallet's relieved.
Just to help you out, this is actually the trailer for the original game, not the expansion. So that might be why you're a little bit more intrigued than what I was. But
that's
again,
hilarious.
It's a cut price game. I think it was 40 to 45, 50 Australian dollars. So not massively expensive. You're talking in US dollars in terms of comparison to a brand new AAA game. You're probably looking at half the cost. But even at that, I wouldn't pay it. I'll be waiting for a very, very, very big steep discount on sale, and so there you go.
Or wait 12 months to get it on PlayStation Plus, maybe, or Game Pass.
Yeah, potentially. I can't. If they've released it, as I said, I didn't look, but it does ring a bell that the original game was on the PS Plus platform. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one got thrown out there as well. Wait for it on that. I would say.
Fair enough. Speaking of other games I've been waiting on, Bully, you'll be happy to know I've finally picked up MLB The Show 2.5 on the Xbox Series X. Obviously, the superior place to play is on PlayStation. Faster load times, sharper looking graphics, better controller with the DualSense Edge, adaptive triggers and everything. All that being said, I absolutely love this game. This is the best baseball game that's ever been available on the Xbox consoles. So if you're a baseball fan, you've been holding out, now's the time. I believe it's currently 25% off in the store, and if you wait till October, I'm betting it'll be 50% off when the World Series rolls around. But this game's phenomenal. I love everything about it. So installs available on the channel. That was a couple of days ago. The game's brilliant. It's 106 gigs, I think. So a bit of a slower install, and it's clearly not on the Australian servers because it just trickled in on my connection. If it's like Grounded 2s, obviously on the Australian servers, that thing just blew in. Granted, that was only a 15 gig game, but it was sitting up around 800 megabits per second, megabytes, excuse me, per second the whole time. But MLB The Show, not sure it ever cracked past 250. So clearly coming in off a US server. So obviously not a huge title here in Australia, but well worth the download. A fantastic game. And I can tell you the cross progression does work, but it's not a waterfall of achievements when you boot it up. But when you load into each of the different game modes, it will pop the achievements associated with that game mode. So I'd earn it on the PlayStation, boot it up, and then I enter Road to the Show, get a couple of achievements, entered, March to October, a couple of achievements, and, all the various game modes. And your stubs or your players, they all carry across the progression, everything. So it's seamlessly done. The face scan import thing works. So my character came across with my custom face and everything. Seamless, beautiful product. I love it. If you love baseball and you've only got an Xbox, definitely pick this game up. 2 thumbs up, 25% off currently. Bully, I can't imagine you've got any questions, but the floor's open.
I don't. The other one I did have is, and I haven't had a look, is it on Game Pass?
No, this year's not available in Game Pass.
No, because I think this will be the first one that isn't on Game Pass. The last couple have been when they came across, which was, I always thought was hilarious, slap in the face of PlayStation. But
absolutely.
It's funny, though, because you talk about the cross-save progression and all the rest of it. I can't imagine that there's too many people that are actually taking advantage of that. Like you buy it on one system, I'm sure you could, as a general rule, even if you wanted to switch in between systems year to year, you can imagine that, but not for the same version across 2 different consoles. I just find that a strange sort of addition. Glad to see it works, but just a strange addition.
Yeah, and I didn't see it as a line item anywhere. They're not trying to sell units on it, but I can confirm it does work. Yeah, I'm not sure how many 2 other hardcore baseball fans are out there double dipping on the title each year, but, hands up on one of them. Fantastic stuff. All right, Bully, break open the fridge, mate. It's time for our cold case.
We're going to crack the ice with Mafia 2 Remaster, and we'll probably get into this very shortly as to why we're playing that. But last year I played through. So this is the definitive edition, if I can spit it out. The definitive edition on released on PS4. There was also Mafia 1 definitive edition, which I played through last year. Really enjoyed it. Like, it actually, the remastered version held up really well. It's, clearly not at the standard of a AAA game on a PS5 now, but, graphically it played pretty well. Gameplay wise, it holds up. I really enjoyed this. The story was fantastic, but the world, and it worked pretty well. If you understand that you're playing an older game that's been retouched, it sort of works. And I was hoping for the same thing with Mafia 2 when you got into the definitive edition, which is a remaster, but not to the same level that they did Mafia 1 with. So graphically, not quite up to the same standard. Gameplay wise, still has a few of the PS3, Xbox 360 style trappings to it.
You can see the character models certainly don't look like they're up to scratch.
Oh, 100%. The story itself still holds. Like, it's still a really
great stories across the Mafia franchise.
Oh, 100%. And so the stories really hold, but the gameplay in and of itself is a really big letdown from where they did the remake or the definitive edition of number 1 to number 2. And I was really disappointed playing through the first couple of hours of it. It'll probably be something I'll get back to just because I want to continue that story. But in terms of the game itself, it was very much a letdown. So I don't know whether, Troy, you've gone hands-on since the original with the definitive edition, whether you've played 1 or 2. 3 is obviously not as old, I think, or I should say that, but it's probably approaching 7 or 8 years old now, Mafia 3. But, obviously the first 2 came out 20 plus years ago. So whether you've gone hands-on with the originals or the remastered versions and what you think of the difference between 1 and 2, which ultimately left me extremely disappointed.
Yeah, mate. I played all 3 games back when they originally released. What was that, a 360 game originally, I want to say? The original Mafia 1, I believe, was on the Xbox 360. Regardless, played them all when they first came out and loved it. When the remasters came out, I fired them all up and played maybe an hour, 2 hours of each title. But when you stand this up against, GTA 5, which I've played through 6 times now, I think, on the various consoles, like it just in no way holds up to the re-releases of Grand Theft Auto. So if I'm in the mood for an open world crime story, I am going back to Grand Theft Auto every day of the week. Love the stories. I think they're brilliant. If you've never played them before, absolutely check them out. They're great games. But no, I haven't gone back through and played them. Hats off to them. I love the franchise. Looking forward to the next entry. But no, the definitive editions didn't get me. Grand Theft Auto got me for the 6th playthrough.
And this is probably the excuse with it. So Mafia 2 came out in 2002 originally, and then was released on the PS2 and Xbox in 2004, and then Mafia 2 was in 2010. So a 6-year gap in between console releases there. So maybe it was because Mafia 1 was such an older game comparatively that they put more effort and energy into it. But still, a really big letdown from my point of view in terms of you've set a relatively decent bar with the definitive remake of number 1, and then you're taking a step down. So if you have any interest, this is going to be a strange way to say it because the stories actually follow each other to some degree. I would, if you're playing in terms of gameplay itself, I'd play 2 before 1. It's going to muck up your story a little bit, but in terms of progressing through the actual gameplay itself, that's the way I'd end up playing it if you can sort of wrap your head around that.
Yeah, that's a fair bit of advice, mate. I like it. I just wonder, and I'm making this up as I go along, but is it possible that Mafia 1's definitive edition was done by a different team than Mafia 2's? Is that maybe where some of the discrepancies in quality have come across from? Or obviously it could be the same team, just a huge budget difference. But I wonder if the definitive one, Mafia 1 Definitive Edition team were cutting their teeth on the new hardware and then jumped off to the next title.
Yeah, not sure. I haven't really delved that deep into it. It was sort of something I threw in there, like having played Mafia 1 last year, and I thought, Mafia, I've got Mafia 2 sitting on the shelf. I'll jump into that. And I didn't really think much of it. And then as soon as you boot it up, you sort of look at it and go, whoa, this is... this is a fair step down. And then
it's like going back to Xbox after playing PS5.
yeah, to a large degree. So I haven't done a lot of deep diving into it, but in terms of developers and the mythology or the thought process behind it, but certainly the way that they've re-released them onto the PS4, it's almost mind-boggling the way they've done it because. I talked about before with RoboCop, you would have the majority of the assets there. It's just about how you retweak them and retouch them. And if you've already done it with the first one, I would imagine that a lot of that would, translate over to the second one. And I'm not sure how it's dipped that far.
Good question. Unless maybe, who was it? Grove Street Games, maybe? They didn't get involved, did they?
I don't think they're allowed to touch anything anymore, are they?
Expanded, who knows? All right, buddy, let's move along, shall we, to this week's most.
And probably the reason I was playing the Mafia games, we have Mafia the Old Country, which is releasing very shortly next week. Not sure whether you say much of this. From my understanding, it's obviously set in Italy. It's the same sort of time period, or maybe a little bit earlier from what I've seen. And a bit of a shorter game from what we've seen with especially Mafia 3, which was a massive time sink. It's sort of probably overstayed its welcome to a fair degree, but really excited for Mafia 3. It's not a full price game. It's I'm going to say it's about 60 or 70 Australian, so we're talking probably 40 US-ish dollars. And to me, it looks good. It's if it gives you what you wanted out of the original Mafia games in terms of a really high quality storyline and some decent gunplay to go with it, it's well worth a look, especially at that price. And even though it is that sort of shorter end, I think from what I've seen, they're talking about a 15-ish hour storyline and not so much of an open world that you've got in most of the other games. It's a bit more linear. But if that sort of gameplay style and interests you, and I would have to say that having played through all 3 of the first Mafia games, that the high watermark of those games is the story,
Yeah.
and the characters and the character building and the world building and all that sort of stuff. So if they can throw that into a shorter version that might be a bit a bit more succinct and a bit more structured, I'm really excited about it and really keen to get my hands on.
Yeah, you and I both. I can tell you how excited I am to go hands on with this one, Bully. I've recently started rewatching The Sopranos from season 1 just to sort of get myself in the right headspace for it. So, no, I'm keen as mustard. I love my open world, crime stories. So this is me down to the ground. My main question for you, Bully, is how stoked do you reckon 2K is? Well, 2K is the same head company, but whoever the specific developers are, how happy do you reckon they are that GTA 6 got bumped back another 6, 12 months or whatever?
Oh, this has certainly done them a favour, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Can see they'd be rubbing their hands together, especially, as you said, to the shorter length of the title as well. They'd be, I reckon they're in pretty good stead.
Well, and it's funny because the timing of it, you talk about that. I could, even though originally GTA 6 was slated to release October, November, I could see this being very much looked past. Even though it was 2, 3, 4 months down the track, that people for this style of game would, crime, story-driven drama, third-person adventure would sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, but GTA is coming out.
Yeah.
The fact that it's been pushed back 6 months, this is almost the perfect sort of, without being the same sort of game, it's almost the perfect sort of interlude in between the games. It's that crime drama, it's the story, it's that third-person gameplay that you're going to get out of GTA 6, and it's probably, as I said, it's not going to take you hour upon hour to complete, and it's probably enough just to, whet the appetite and hold you over until May next year. So I 100% agree with you. They'd be stoked that it got delayed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sign me up. I'm keen as. Can't wait. Rubbing my hands together. Looking forward to it. There's no multiplayer in this, I don't believe, is there? There never has been in the past. I can't assume they've broken the mold on that one.
No, I don't believe so, and I wouldn't imagine that a change, no.
Perfect. All right, in that case, buddy, let's move on into the news, shall we?
News story number 1, and this is what I can only title this by what in the hell are they thinking? So news comes this week that Warner Brothers, whose last, I say major release, I guess, was the live service game Suicide Squad It Kills the Justice League, which had its moments. I think there was, if you played through the actual story, it was okay. And once you got to which was very short and very limited, and once you got to the meat of the game, it was a boring, grindy slogfest with not a lot going for it. So
it did have an Australian lead, though.
Well, was he though? I've seen better Australian accents in Death Stranding too, and that's not saying much. So given that game was, in essence, a AAA style game with a lot of money thrown and resources thrown behind it, that news comes this week that WB Games Montreal are advertising for a AAA DC Comics live service video game. So they're advertising for staff for a new game. I've got nothing else to say other than I'm utterly shocked that they're going back to the well on this one. I would have thought that they would have parked this, even if they thought this is where the future is, park it for the time being. This one was an absolute, like Suicide Squad was an absolute, complete and utter failure. Go back to what you're good at. Go back to single player, focused. We had the Batman.
It's at least not Remedy. Tell me it's not Remedy forced to do this again.
Not from what I've seen. It's just WB Games Montreal are the ones advertising it. And the highlight of that studio is and I'll be controversial when I say this, the Batman
Arkham series,
Arkham quadrilogy.
That is controversial, but I'm right there with you.
But that was some of the highlight of single player games, and I know City and Arkham Knight expanded the universe, but one of my favorite games of all time is Arkham Asylum. It's tight, it's structured. Yes, there is some exploration into the game, but it is a really tight world that doesn't overstay its welcome. And in terms of all 4 of those games, Arkham Asylum is far and away my favorite out of those four.
Yeah.
And
they pioneered that fighting style and then evolved it, and now it's its own genre essentially. That exact Arkham combat, like they created it and then they evolved it, and then they got totally derailed by WB. It was such a bizarre turn of events.
And it's not even just the combat. Like, admittedly, they, like you said, they were pioneers in the combat style, but I don't think I've ever seen a game that gives you the feeling of being a particular character so well. So you're sneaking through dark areas and tunnels and vents in roofs, and you were hanging from ceilings, and you were using your various contraptions and apparatus to take down the bad guys. That was the ultimate superhero game.
Yep.
When in reality, Batman is the least of the superhero-y superheroes, if that sort of makes sense. Like, he doesn't
hold on now. I'm going to have to go.
No. I mean, in terms of, he doesn't have any. He wasn't bitten by a spider. He's
not
Superman.
I see what you're saying. Sorry, very good.
He relies on his gadgets. He relies on his guile. He relies on his skill.
His brains.
And his brains, and he doesn't rely on, some superpower that he has.
Yep.
And there is no superhero game that gives you that much of a lineup and a succinction with an actual character than those Arkham games. And they went away with it with Suicide Squad, and I'm shocked that they're going back to the well again. But who knows? Maybe they made money of it. I don't know, but
I don't think so. I never heard that as a story. It's Jim Ryan. Is there any chance? Has he been announced? Is he the new head of WB? Is that what's going on here?
Well, I don't know, because you say whether it made sales or not. I would have thought that it would have at least broken even based on the IP that it is. Critically, and from a video game consumer at the high level end, we sort of look at it and poo-poo it. But I can imagine that there'd be a lot of people that don't spend a lot of time or interest in video games just go, "Oh, it's a Batman game." The same as the Marvel franchise. Like, they've been
that's fair.
They've been dipping for a long time, but people will still go and see them, and they're still a highly profitable franchise. That's why they keep making them.
That's fair.
Everyone shit cans them, but people keep going to see them. So,
Boat with you all. Well, just as a counterpoint to that, I guess I've got it on the PC. I got it for free on the Epic Game Store. They gave it away. I think it was around Christmas time. But then I also got it for free on PlayStation. I think it was a PlayStation Plus title, maybe February this year. I think they gave it away.
Yep.
So I've got 2 full versions of the game. I've played them both for an hour, 2 hours, something like this. But they haven't gotten any. I haven't bought any DLC. I haven't given them any actual money for the game. So I can't imagine what their ongoing expense is, because you could argue this should be a single player offline game, but it isn't. It's totally tied into their online service. So what's their ongoing burn rate of just having the service up so people can occasionally boot the game up and play it? I can't imagine.
I'll just double check, but I'm almost certain that the servers got shut and they actually made it as a.
Oh, there you go. My finger well off the pulse.
Which is funny, because we were talking about it last week with the petition from Europe about
stop killing games.
Yeah, about keeping the online systems running. And my understanding is that they shut the servers off.
Well, there you have it.
But have allowed the game to continue being able to play. I'm just having a look now. So they're still online, but there was an offline mode added.
There you go. Yeah, well, they're preparing then to the sunsetting the server.
No, it's ended ongoing support. There's an offline mode, so you can still play it without needing to jump on. And I'd imagine at some point there's going to be a position where they just turn the servers off, but they've already set it up so that you can still play it. It's funny, because I reckon I put probably 25, 30 hours into this game. I got very close to the platinum. It's just got extremely grindy towards the end, but I actually didn't mind the vast majority of it until you got to that last sort of 10% of the game requirement in terms of it took this extraordinary jump from being, you could see where the progression was, you could see yourself ticking along if you put the time into it. And then all of a sudden it got to this point where the progression just, and it would have been baked in. They've just gone, let's let's just really slow the progression from this point to make people pay the money.
Yeah.
Which you see a lot of time. But the funny thing is, it wasn't 10% or 20% into the game. It was like 95% into the game. We're going to stonewall it and really make you pay if you want to progress that last 5%. I just found the whole setup and thought process behind it was utterly bizarre.
Yeah, that is crazy. I wonder if, pure speculation, but I wonder if in including that single player mode, they cut that grind out. I wonder, Bully, whether it'd be worth your time reinstalling it, playing it is in the offline mode, and maybe you can just steamroll your way to a platinum nice and quick. Maybe they took that sort of sharp curve out of it.
Also, there we go. I think there was mid 50, 55 platinums, and I think 55 trophies. I think I had like 48 of them after that 25, 30 hours. So might be worth having a look at. If it's only a couple hour cleanup, I'll go back to it. But if it's still that slugfest, there's no way I'm finishing this one off.
Fair enough. And you prompted me just saying trophies and slugfest. I went back and earned 3 more trophies, so I'm 3 closer now to the platinum in Rainbow Six Siege. But I'm fearful because there's a gold trophy for playing with the original 20 operators, 10 on offensive, 10 on defensive. And the gold trophy was just for winning one round with each character. And each, as we discussed last week, each match is made up of 3 rounds. So you can switch out your character each round and plow through it. And I've gone through and won a round with every character twice, and I cannot pop that gold trophy. So I might be coming up a couple short. Unfortunately, I haven't done any research on that, though. Anyway, news story 2, Bully. What do you got for me?
News story 2. So we've got the game. We've spoken about it a couple of times today, but Game Pass revenue. So Xbox have thrown out that they have set a new record with their revenue stream through Xbox Game Pass. So we spoke about games, and we did. You spoke about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, which was a day and date release onto the service. They've got a whole bunch of other stuff on there as well. That I think Grounded we talked about as well. There's a fair bit on there, but they're saying that they're actually in a relatively profitable range in terms of a Game Pass in and of itself. Now, I don't know because the numbers haven't been broken down, so I don't know whether they're extrapolating that out in terms of their Game Pass revenue being these are games we're putting on the service and we're making a profit off of that, or the whole system in and of itself we're making a profit out of it.
Are they including development costs of their internal studios?
Well, not only that, but is the cost inclusion the PS5 versions? Because we spoke about, I think maybe a month or 2 ago, that Xbox is now the highest selling developer on the PlayStation platform. So are they accounting for a game that came to Game Pass was funded by the Microsoft studios to go into Game Pass that's now come across to PlayStation? We talk of Horizon, Forza Horizon. We look at the original
Indiana
Jones, all those sort of games.
Sea of Thieves.
And I know all those games are sold really well on the PS platform. Whether they're sort of extrapolating that out to say, they were, quote unquote, Game Pass games that we've now allowed to go somewhere else. So that's really, from my perspective, the only way that I can see that being profitable, especially when you're talking about the outlay that they've had to get those studios to develop for the platform. And quite clearly one was the Activision Blizzard one, which cost them $63 billion. So, they're saying at the moment, Xbox, that they've got 35 million subscribers. Now, if you take the base level, I think the base level US is 15-ish Australian dollars a month. So you're talking in the range of about $500 million a month that they're sitting on. But as you rightly say, that doesn't account for development costs. That doesn't account for advertising costs. That doesn't, there's other back end things, servers, that sort of stuff that they have to account for.
I guess Indiana Jones. Oh, the other one is Gears of War. That's coming out, I think, the end of next month.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I saw an article last week that that's the highest pre-ordered game this year on PlayStation, is Gears of War's pre-order numbers.
May well, and it's a cut price game too, so it's basically
Yeah.
half the cost of a day one AAA game. So,
But Gears of War, Indiana Jones, and Forza all definitely require an Xbox account, a Microsoft account. So are they counting those numbers as, oh, well, you've got an account, even if you're not paying the subscription service, you've got a Game Pass account just to play it on PlayStation? Maybe, who knows what kind of magic tricks their accountants are playing.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Is that they come out and say, "Oh, we've got 35 million players."
Active accounts.
Is that yeah, and that's what you mean. Active accounts. Is that active Game Pass accounts, or is that active Xbox accounts that are logging in? You know, there might be 5 million of those.
There's 5 million Forza players on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There might be 5 million Forza players. There might be, you know, 1 million Indiana Jones players. There might, you know, Gears of War releases. There might be another 5 million in there. So that's, once you start adding those numbers up, that's half the $35 million. The 35 million subscribers. So is that what they're counting, or are they counting people that are actually paying money each month to subscribe to Game Pass? I don't know. And to me, and you mentioned it before in terms of the place to play games. I couldn't tell you the last time I turned the Xbox on. I almost, you know, apart from the Nintendo exclusives, I almost primarily play on the PS5 Pro now. So
yeah, I reckon 90%, easy 90%, maybe 95% of my time's on the PS5 Pro.
Yeah, and even to the point where, you know, there's games releasing on Game Pass that I sort of look at it and go, oh, you know, that's, you know, 12 or 18 months ago, I might have gone, oh, yeah, I'll play that on Xbox and see how it is. I almost sort of go, okay, yep, it's coming out. Oh, it's reviewing really well. It looks really good. I'll just get on PlayStation.
Yeah, well, I think we both did that with Indiana Jones. I think we both played it for a couple of hours and then, yep, we'll wait for the PlayStation release. Thanks.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, no disrespect when I say this, but are some of their dodgy accounting now that, what have they laid off this year? You know, 2,000, several thousand staff members from Xbox. Are they saying now they're more profitable just because they've laid off so many staff members?
Well, that's the other thing as well. Yeah, yes, they have dumped a lot. And the other thing, which you know, a lot of people forget, is you know, Xbox is part of the Microsoft brand, which for a long time, you know, the money flows significantly from Microsoft as a brand in terms of, you know, clearly they're the number one company in the world in terms of software, PC software. Everyone uses Windows. You know, apart from, you know, developers or hardcore people that want to go to Linux or you know, or something else. But, you know, for the day-to-day user, they're the biggest selling software company in the world. So they can filter that money across to Xbox. So again, is that profitability in, you know, is that raw numbers that Xbox is pumping through, or is that money that is being filtered from Microsoft as a whole into Xbox, and the end of year books go, oh, we're actually in a profit, but we're not once you take out that money that's filtering through from Microsoft? You know, again, these are all things that I suppose we're probably never going to know, other than on face value. Xbox, I should say, are saying that they're doing really well, they're profitable, everything's working, you know, fantastic, that they're selling on PlayStation. You know, all things are rosy. I don't know, and it's probably something we'll probably never know.
Yeah, or a tell-all book in 20 years. Phil Spencer's memoirs, possibly. All right, Bully, surely there can be no controversy in News Story 3 this week.
Well, Sony are trying to shut down the controversy. So you're seeing on screen now, this is the
Horizon something?
I think this might be getting into the controversy. This is a trailer for a game that is being developed by Chinese company Tencent, which is Light of Motriam. Now, you rightly say, is it one of the part of the Horizon franchise? Clearly, Sony thinks so. They've taken them to court and are suing them based on the fact that it is quite clearly a step-for-step, you know, rip-off of Horizon. It even looks like a B grade version. Like there's different elements to it to some degree, but the art in and of itself looks, bang on with Horizon. Then I'd be interested to see how they go because we found ourselves in a very similar position late last year in terms of Pokemon and Nintendo and Pal World.
Yes.
Pal World was quite clearly a rip-off, but they've made a couple of tweaks here and there that have satiated Nintendo's bloodlust for lawsuits. And, away it continues. So whether there's enough differentiation between, Horizon and, this game, don't know. But on face value, it looks very similar, and it'd be interesting to see how this works out because if they do side with Tencent, and again, I haven't been able to find out which court they've actually taken them to, whether it's a court,
US or UK,
like a Western court, or whether they're taken to a Chinese court, which is I don't even know why you'd bother, to be honest with you. But, it'd be interesting to see how that goes, and what the ramifications are. Because if this gets through, to me, it almost opens the floodgates for Chinese developers to just hijack, traditional Western video game studios, and I guess then becomes the argument is Horizon's a fantastic game that you get. Well, from my point, I loved Horizon.
Yeah, no.
I really love Horizon. So is Horizon a great game? Objectively, Horizon's a great game that you get one version of it every 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is. Now, if Tencent can produce a game that is half a rung below that, still okay, but not to the same level, but they pump out one every 12 months, are people going to go, okay, well, it's a little bit of a rung below, but it's satiating what I want over that period of time until the next one comes out? It's an interesting argument one way or the other, because quite clearly the Chinese companies have the manpower to throw out more of these than what Western companies do in a quicker time. So, depending on how this lawsuit goes, I guess we'll find out. But it's just sort of interesting for the future of video game development and the quality of video games as a whole, I suppose.
To a certain extent, though, I think the market needs to decide. If you're an end user, a customer, you're sitting there on the PlayStation, for argument's sake, obviously PlayStation probably would never let this game be sold on the PSN. But even if they did, if you're sitting there and you've got the tile for this game and the tile for Horizon side by side, Horizon's, 2 years old or whatever, so it's at a discounted price. For argument's sake, this game's brand new and is the same price as a couple-year-old Horizon game. Surely at some point it's up to the gamers to decide, I want to pay my money to Sony and, I'll pay for the Horizon franchise to continue, or I'm happy with this sort of, as you say, run down quality game, but it's similar enough. I don't know, because it reminds me of all the Soulsborne games. Like, I love the original Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and, all the Soulsborne games are great. It's, From Software are the masters of it. But what are there? Lords of the Fallen, there's 100 other Souls-like games out there, and I have no issue with the competition, and I just simply pay for the ones that I think are the best, and that's kind of the free market doing its thing, isn't it?
Oh, to a degree, I laugh at your statement, though, that would Sony allow a rubbish game on the PSN store, because the PSN store is full of rubbish games and shovelware. But and I suppose that's what I was getting to is, yes, there is consumer choice, but if you're Sony that's spending, $100, $200 million on these AAA titles that come out every 5 or 6 years, and this is sort of what I'm getting at, is if I know that every 4 or 5, 6 years, whatever it is, that a top tier, high quality Horizon game is going to come out, I'll pay for it and I'll buy it. But if I can get a game that's a third of the price that gives me 80, 90% of the same enjoyment I get out of those Horizon games through another company that might be ripping them off, is it something that you then look at and say, well, I'll pay that $20 a year for the next 3 years to play this substandard version, and they'll pump out 3 or 4 in the same time that it takes Sony to pump out one Horizon game. I suppose that's the argument, not an argument as much, but is that something to look at and say, well, there's a lot, like I said before, there's a lot of shovelware on each of the respective consoles stores. Is this adding to that, or is this a step above that shovelware and it's giving you something a bit cheaper that gives you 90% of what you want, but not the whole experience? I don't know. The answer will probably be, if it ever gets released and how it does and how it performs, and then you take it from there as a comparison. I don't know. It's just probably something from my point of view interesting to look at and get the results on as to how they go in terms of, without getting to philosophical arguments, but for a long time China has been accused of stealing Western technology and ideas and rebadging it and selling it as their own. So this is just another step in that. But whether it actually convinces people to pay money and pay for it, or whether people hold the line and say, no, I disagree with the Chinese government fundamentally. I disagree with the fact that they're stealing ideas or combinations of whatever your philosophical idea is. And I'm just going to support Sony because they're a high quality, high tier company. They do things right. Again, these are things that each individual have to make. It's just an interesting thought, or I guess, outcome as to how this all sort of works out and where it lands in the long term. I don't know, certainly
Absolutely.
from my point of view, but just how it lands.
Long term, my only final point and concern would be that if Sony get a win on this, if the Sony lawyers, come away with the victory on this, God, I hope they don't start tearing Roblox apart. I spend a fair bit of time on there with my boys. They're forever showing me games, but just about every game on there is a rip-off of a AAA game, on proper consoles. And it's, it's not one tier down, it's 100 tiers lower in Roblox. But you can see this is clearly Call of Duty clone. Doesn't look anywhere near as good, but they're grabbing all those elements. So, if Sony win this one, I hope they don't turn the eye of Sauron onto Roblox, because that might be a devastating blow to my young kids' libraries.
No, I don't think they're anywhere near as litigious as Nintendo. I think this one's just outwardly egregious from a artistic standpoint. So
yeah, absolutely, mate. Fair enough. All right, news story 4, mate. What's banging on in this one?
Well, news story 4, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I'd throw this one in for you. So the Sony Fight Stick has officially been, I guess, released into the wild, and it's going to be called the Flex Strike. And there's a window that has been released. So it was shown off at Evo 2025 in Las Vegas, and it will be released sometime early next year. I don't have the exact date in front of you. But
I was hoping for Christmas this year. No such luck.
No. Launch next year, compatible with both PC and PS5. So I know we were talking about your issues with Xbox and Sony nerfing the ability to set up your own sticks. So I thought I'd throw this one in for you. I haven't seen a price on it yet. It's one of those things that could either come in at $150 odd, or it could come in at $600. I don't know.
I'd put money on around the $400 range. I reckon it'll be half price again above the edge, I reckon. But looking at this, all the features it's got, I am rubbing my hands here. I can't wait to go hands on. If it's $400 or less, I'll be a day one adopter, that's for sure. I love me a good fight stick, and it's been a while since I've had a legit PlayStation fight stick. I reckon it was probably the PS2, if I'm being honest. So I love everything about the build quality, and obviously it's only off a render on a video, so subject to actual hands-on. And even check out that carry case, Bully. I've been a big fan of their bloody little backpack carry case. Sign me up for that alone. But I like the look of it. I like the functionality. It can be either wired or wireless. It's got the dongle. It's got an onboard battery, so you can go wireless with it and, probably get a good session out of it. So I love everything about this. I can't wait. It looks more appealing to me than, I don't remember the final name, but the Project Leonardo, that little adaptive controller that Sony have released. This is far more appealing to me. This is me down to the ground. I wish it was out now. I'd be all about it.
No, you'll have to look at, and some of the other features that I did see with it. So you can, my understanding is that it works via a, and you can see on screen there, there's a USB for the wireless version. There's a USB dongle that sort of plugs in. But the interesting part with that is for anyone that has and you can see it on my head right here, the PlayStation headset or any other peripherals will actually, officially branded peripherals, will work with that same dongle. So you can have the fight stick attached to that one dongle that's also attached to your headset. And you don't need to have 3-4 different things in at the same time. You can all set it up with you have one thing plugged in. You just, it's all set up and good to go. So from a usability perspective, big thumbs up from what I've seen so far. And it's probably, you know what I'm like with physical things and collectors. As much as I'll probably never use it, I'll probably buy it anyway.
Oh, yeah. Sign me up. I can't wait. It's so good for so many games. Like, it's not just limited to fighting games. That's the point that I see as a huge selling feature, and they never lean into it. I don't know why, but there's so many good games that only need one stick and the button. So, I'd be getting every sort of use out of this. I love everything about it. I just hope that they also release a 30th anniversary. The old grey style would be amazing.
Don't tease me, because they did a re-release a couple of weeks ago of the 30th anniversary consoles, controllers, etc. And just I don't know. Does PlayStation hate Australia? I don't know. But I jumped onto the US website. I was able to buy one, but they won't ship to Australia. I jumped on the European one, was able to buy one, don't ship to Australia. Looked somewhere that ships to Australia, they won't give it to me. So Sony, I'll give you the money.
They don't want your money, bully. They're not interested.
I'm opening my wallet. Just take it. Take the money. I'll give you what you want. Just give me what I want.
No sale.
Son of bitches.
All right, bully. News story 5. Can we get a sale here, maybe?
News story. Talk about sales. So Battlefield 6, which is releasing later this year. So there's been a bit of up and down in terms of, the price of video games going forward. We saw with the release of the Nintendo Switch 2 that some of their games have increased in price to $80 US and well over the 100 mark in Australia. There was indications, I think, with the Outer Worlds, no, not the Outer Worlds, Borderlands, that they were going to go to $80 before they quickly walked that one back to 70. And we've heard during the week the Battlefield 6, which is coming out this year and looking actually promising, given that some of the missteps and failures we've seen in the last couple. But I think originally the idea was floated this was going to be an $80 game. They've since walked that one back as well, and no, we're going to a $70 US game for that one, which to me makes sense because it's going to be an online. Yeah, there may well be a significant single player content to it, but ultimately there is going to be multiplayer, and there's going to be skins and other things that they can sell to make up that $10 margin, which I don't buy them, but people will, and they'll make up that margin pretty quick.
That's the big part that's always missing from these stories is, the base game's, 60 US or 70 US, whatever it is. But how many people now buy the premium editions and just throw an extra $30 or whatever on top of it? I've bought so many premium editions in the last year, and predominantly because they give you a couple of days early access is always what gets me over the line. But you never hear people going, the base game $69.95 or whatever, but the premium edition's $90 or whatever it is in the States. And how many people are going that route? I've got to think that those day one sales would almost have to be 50-50, you'd reckon, like premium edition and base.
I reckon it depends on the game, but I wouldn't disagree with you that there's a lot of people that, and it's funny, for a lot of games, I get the hype and I get the idea that you want to get hands on early, but for a lot of games that are that are offering nothing more than 3 days or a week early, and that's the only difference between the base version and the premium or the early version or whatever it is. I find that hard to stomach. When you start selling extra things like, in this case, there's liable to be extra skins and
DLC pack 1 or whatever, 6 months later.
Currency or whatever it is, then when you look at that,
Battle Pass,
you can sort of say, yeah, I get it to a degree. But when you're looking at, predominantly single player games that are really offering you only a couple of days early access, the whole thing's strange to me. But if that's what it takes to keep games at a lower base sale point, is that they're selling the early edition or the premium edition or whatever at a higher price that might be on face value, somewhat exorbitant, but it offsets the base price. I haven't got an issue with that at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. And I don't even know your temperature on the Battlefield franchise itself, mate. What's your history with it? Are you a big Battlefield guy, or is it not your cup of tea?
Not really my cup of tea. I think I'd try, what was the last one? 2142?
2042, I think.
2042. I saw that when it originally came out. The reviews were terrible. The gameplay was terrible. I think I ended up, 2 months after release picking it up for $20 because no one was buying it. And played a little bit of it then. Wasn't really my cup of tea, but from what I've seen, that they actually, EA, to their credit, and EA copped their fair whack over the journey, but to their credit with this one, they've actually, for 2042, actually ended up putting a fair bit of time and effort into it to get it back up to a decent standard. And from what I understand, I don't know if you played it recently, Troy, but from what I understand, it's actually at a really decent level in terms of an online multiplayer shooter now. So
yeah, well, I played it last at Christmas, so 8 months ago at this point. But at the time, I checked my clock and I was over 210 hours in the multiplayer. Like, I don't even remember. There must have been a single player campaign, but I don't even. I love all the Battlefields. I reckon I put in easy 100 hours to each Battlefield release. I love it because it's 128 player online multiplayer first-person shooter action. Sign me up. Give me a helicopter. Let me fly it straight at one single bloke on the battlefield, parachute out at the last second, or get little bloody ATVs, throw a couple of C4 packs on it, spin it across the map, aim it straight at a tank, bounce off, detonate the C4, take the tank. There is so much dynamic fun to be had in the online shooter space of Battlefield, mate. I'm such a huge fan. I can't wait for this. And the gameplay trailer, it's on the calendar out today, but it's US today, so it's actually tomorrow for us. But I can't wait to go hands-on with this title, but even just to see the big gameplay reveal for us tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's it's funny because for a long time it was compared to obviously Call of Duty. Like it's fairly similar in terms of the audience it is going through. But the funny thing is that they're almost completely separate games. Like Call of Duty is very small map size, very fast paced, very go. Whereas Battlefield has traditionally been very open maps,
massive scale,
a lot more players in there, very more slow paced, very methodical. And the vehicles is the other big one. I hate to use the term realistic, but it's a lot more realistic in terms of an actual battle scene. Than what Call of Duty is. And I've always been surprised that Battlefield hasn't got more not interest, because there's always been interest there, but it hasn't blown up in the same manner that Call of Duty has.
Yeah, absolutely. But not to bloody carry on about it too much, but I love me the Battlefields. I can't wait. As I said, hundreds of hours in so many of the titles. Even did you play back in the day? I can't even remember what year it was. 2000 maybe. The original, what was it Battlefield? Was it 1942? I think was the first one that came out. Oh, I spent so much time on that one, and that was back when it looked like a Roblox game by today's standards. But I've always just loved it. And, that was the thing they did dink. They ended up putting, I think in 2042, they gave every class the medic pack, which totally sort of took away the medic class's role in the battlefield. That was a misstep, but I don't know if they've fixed it. Hopefully they don't make the same mistake here. But the other thing that annoyed me was in the original reviews for 2042, a lot of people were dinging them for not having the scoreboard. mid-game. But it was there. It was there from day one. You just had to do 2 button presses. Normally, it's just the back button or select or whatever.
Oh, well, it's overly complicated.
And it would bring it up. Yeah, no, it wasn't good. But I just couldn't believe how many reviews were like, they haven't even included it. And I'm like, they have. It's just 2 button presses away. That drove me nuts. But anyway, I'm a big fanboy.
You talk about old school military shooters. I'm going to throw this at you. Before Call of Duty, before Battlefield. No. Medal of Honor.
Oh yeah, love me some Medal of Honor.
Love Medal of Honor. I love the depending on how well you did, you actually got medals at the end of your game.
Yes, absolutely.
I love Medal of Honor.
Yeah, very franchise.
And was that EA again?
That was EA. Yep.
Stuffed that up completely, didn't they?
Yeah, what was the last one? I feel like it was
Warfighter.
Like 2016 or something, was it?
Medal of Honor Warfighter, I think. And then they did a Medal of Honor that was called Medal of Honor, and that was the title.
Yes, that's right.
And that was the end of it, and they completely screwed it.
No, that's a shame. Oh, well, speaking of the end of things, that's the end of the news segment, Bully. That'll bring us to the end of the show. Dare I roll the off-duty clapper? I'm gonna. Here we go. Bully, thank you very much for your hard work this evening. You have cut many a lap to get today's show in order, sir, and I thank you for it. Good work.
Pleasure as always, and I like the off-duty because that's 2 weeks of me checking out, and I'm heading off overseas very shortly.
Well, remember to pick up those cheap consoles while you're over there.
They might be interesting. I'm not sure they work.
They'll ruin. Now I'll let you go, Bully, and you can fire up the old BMX Triple X there in the background. I know you've been itching for it.
I've got to find it. Is it under B or is it under X? I've got to go searching, or is it in the secret drawer underneath the desk? Who knows?
I love it. Then my final question, Bully. What else could you do with Geek Aloud?
Like it, subscribe it. You'll never miss it.